Have you ever wondered why relationships feel so complicated? Why you sometimes fall in love with an ideal that later disappoints you? Or why certain people trigger emotions that seem larger than life? Carl Jung believed the answer lies in two of the most mysterious archetypes in the human psyche, the anima and the animus. According to Jung, inside every man lives an inner feminine figure, called the anima, and inside every woman lives an inner masculine figure, called the animus. These are not just abstract concepts. They shape how you think, feel, dream, and especially how you connect with others. They are the hidden forces behind attraction, projection, creativity, and even spiritual growth. The anima carries qualities often associated with the feminine: emotion, intuition, empathy, receptivity, and imagination. The animus embodies qualities often linked to the masculine: logic, assertiveness, reason, power, and structure. Together, they represent the polarities of a human soul. Jung believed that a man cannot be whole without connecting to his anima, and a woman cannot be whole without embracing her animus. But here's the paradox. Most people are completely unaware of these inner figures. Instead of recognizing them within, we unconsciously project them onto others. That's why you might meet someone and instantly feel they're your perfect match. You're not just seeing them, you're seeing your anima or animus reflected in them. And when reality doesn't live up to that projection, conflict, disappointment, or heartbreak often follows. In this third episode of our series on Carl Jung's archetypes, we're going to explore the anima and animus in depth, what they truly are and why Jung saw them as central to the psyche, how they're formed in childhood through parents, culture, and society, the powerful role they play in shaping our relationships, the dangers of ignoring them and repressing their energy, and most importantly, how integrating the anima and animus leads to inner balance, authenticity, and wholeness. So stay with me until the end, because understanding these archetypes might completely change the way you see yourself and every relationship you've ever had. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share this video with someone who is also seeking self-discovery, because this journey into Jung's archetypes is more than knowledge, it's transformation. Carl Jung believed that the human psyche is not complete without acknowledging its hidden opposite. He observed that inside every man there is an inner feminine image, the anima, and inside every woman there is an inner masculine image, the animus. These figures are not imaginary fantasies. They are living forces in the unconscious that shape how we experience emotions, thoughts, and relationships. The anima is the inner feminine. For men, she appears in dreams, fantasies, or strong emotional reactions. She embodies qualities like intuition, sensitivity, empathy, receptivity, and imagination. A man who denies his anima may seem overly rational, detached, or cold. But when he embraces her, he becomes more creative, compassionate, and connected to the depths of his soul. The animus is the inner masculine. For women, he appears as a voice of authority, a figure of reason, or a presence of strength within dreams and fantasies. He represents logic, discipline, assertiveness, independence, and courage. A woman who rejects her animus may feel voiceless, overly dependent, or disconnected from her power. But when she integrates him, she finds confidence, clarity, and the ability to act decisively. Jung described the anima and animus as bridges between the conscious mind and the unconscious. They act as mediators, guiding us into deeper layers of the psyche. This is why they often appear in symbolic forms in dreams, sometimes as strangers, lovers, mentors, or even adversaries. It is important to note that Jung did not mean these figures are tied strictly to gender roles. The anima and animus are symbolic polarities, and each person, regardless of gender, can experience both. They represent the balance of qualities that exist within every human soul. Why does this matter? Because the anima and animus influence how we perceive the opposite sex, how we relate to others, and even how we relate to ourselves. They carry all the unconscious expectations, desires, and fears we project outward. Recognizing them is a first step to reclaiming those projections and moving toward wholeness. In short, the anima and animus are not other people. They are you. They are the hidden partners within your psyche, your inner feminine and masculine, calling you to integration. The anima and animus don't appear out of nowhere. They are formed through our earliest experiences of life. Jung believed that these archetypes take shape through the way we relate to the opposite sex in childhood, and then are reinforced by culture, religion, and society. For men, the anima is often influenced first by the mother or other female figures in childhood. A nurturing, warm, and supportive mother may create an anima that feels gentle, comforting, and inspiring. On the other hand, a critical or emotionally distant mother may leave a man with an anima that feels cold, unpredictable, or even dangerous. As he grows, he unconsciously projects these qualities onto women he meets, often without realizing it. For women, the animus is initially shaped by the father or father figures. A strong, wise, and encouraging father can create an animus that feels protective, empowering, and trustworthy. But a harsh or absent father might form an animus that feels judgmental, domineering, or unreliable. Later in life, this animus gets projected onto men, influencing attraction, trust, and expectations in relationships. But it doesn't stop with parents. Culture also plays a huge role. Movies, myths, and stories teach us certain ideals of masculinity and femininity. For example, a man may unconsciously build his anima around the cultural image of the perfect woman, beautiful, caring, and nurturing. A woman may form her animus from cultural ideas of the ideal man, powerful, confident, and successful. These collective images blend with personal experiences to form the inner archetypes. Dreams are another way these figures develop and reveal themselves. A man might dream of mysterious women who guide, inspire, or tempt him. A woman may dream of powerful male figures, sometimes supportive, sometimes threatening. Jung saw these dreams as expressions of the evolving anima and animus, constantly seeking recognition. The process of formation is not entirely conscious. It is shaped by thousands of small interactions, words, glances, cultural symbols, and emotional experiences. And because these figures are built unconsciously, we often mistake them for reality, projecting them onto partners, friends, or even strangers. In short, the anima and animus are born from both the personal and the collective. They are the mirrors of our earliest relationships, colored by culture, and carried into adulthood as living presences within the psyche. And unless we learn to recognize them, they will continue to shape our choices from the shadows. One of the most powerful ways the anima and animus influence our lives is through relationships. Jung believed that much of the intensity, attraction, and even conflict we experience with others comes from projections of these inner figures. Instead of seeing the other person clearly, we often see them through the lens of our anima or animus. For men, this often means projecting the anima onto women. A man may meet a woman and instantly feel she is the one, not because of who she truly is, but because she embodies the qualities of his unconscious feminine. She becomes a mirror of his deepest longings, fantasies, and unacknowledged emotions. But here lies the danger. No woman can ever live up to an idealized anima. When reality collides with projection, disappointment, conflict, or even resentment can emerge. For women, the process is similar with the animus. A woman may project her animus onto a man, seeing him as the embodiment of strength, wisdom, or authority. She may feel drawn to him as if he carries her missing half. But again, this projection is unrealistic. No man can perfectly embody the unconscious masculine figure. When the illusion breaks, the relationship is tested. This is why so many relationships begin with passion and idealization, but later face disillusionment. What felt like soulmate energy was often projection of the anima or animus, not the true person in front of us. Jung warned that without awareness of these archetypes, we risk falling in love not with others, but with pieces of our own unconscious reflected back to us. Yet, there's also a gift here. Relationships become a stage for growth when we recognize the anima and animus at work. Instead of blaming the other person for not living up to our fantasy, we can ask, what part of myself am I projecting? What inner qualities do I need to embrace? A man might realize that his attraction to a nurturing woman points to his own need to embrace empathy. A woman might discover that her admiration of a confident man reflects her need to activate her own inner strength. In this way, relationships become mirrors. The anima and animus use them to show us what we lack, what we deny, and what we need to integrate, love becomes not just romance, but a path toward wholeness. When Jung spoke of the Anima and Animus, he often warned of the dangers of repressing or ignoring them. These inner figures are not passive. They are living forces in the unconscious. And if you refuse to acknowledge them, they don't simply go away. They act out in hidden, disruptive, and sometimes destructive ways. For men, rejecting the anima can lead to emotional detachment. He becomes overly rational, trapped in logic, unable to access empathy or vulnerability. His relationships may feel cold or distant because he struggles to connect on a deeper emotional level. Worse, his unacknowledged anima may emerge in unhealthy ways. Mood swings, irrational obsessions, or destructive relationships with women who embody the parts of himself he denies. For women, ignoring the animus can mean losing touch with inner strength. She may become passive, overly dependent, or fearful of standing in her power. But the animus does not disappear. In the shadows, it can turn into a harsh inner critic, a voice of judgment that constantly says, "You're not good enough, you'll never succeed, you can't trust yourself." Instead of empowering her, the rejected animus enslaves her. Another danger is toxic projection. When we don't recognize these figures within ourselves, we keep projecting them outward. Men may idolize women, placing unrealistic expectations on them to embody the perfect feminine. Women may idealize men as saviors, protectors, or ultimate authorities. These projections set relationships up for disappointment and conflict, because no human being can carry the weight of someone else's unconscious archetype. At a collective level, ignoring these forces can also create cultural imbalance. Societies that repress the feminine may become dominated by aggression, competition, and control, qualities of shadow animus. Societies that repress the masculine may fall into passivity, indecision, or fear of responsibility, qualities of a distorted anima. Jung believed that much of humanity's conflict comes from denying these archetypal energies. Perhaps the greatest danger of all is incompleteness. Without recognizing the anima and animus, we live half a life. A man who only identifies with logic, but not intuition, is unbalanced. A woman who only identifies with empathy, but not strength, is limited. Ignoring these figures keeps us divided, disconnected from our wholeness. Jung's warning was clear. What you deny within will rule you from the shadows. The anima and animus, if unacknowledged, don't just weaken you, they dominate you. Jung believed that the ultimate goal of encountering the anima and animus is not to repress them, nor to project them endlessly onto others, but to integrate them into consciousness. Integration means recognizing these inner figures as parts of yourself, embracing the qualities they represent, and bringing them into balance with your personality. For men, this integration begins by accepting the presence of the anima. Instead of denying emotion, intuition, and vulnerability, he learns to welcome them. He allows himself to feel deeply, to listen to his dreams, and to develop creativity and empathy. By embracing the anima, a man doesn't lose strength. He gains wholeness. He becomes both grounded and sensitive, logical yet imaginative. For women, integration means embracing the animus not as a harsh inner critic, but as a source of strength and clarity. She learns to recognize the voice of the animus within her as an ally, guiding her toward independence, assertiveness, and courage. When she integrates her animus, she no longer waits for external validation. She acts with inner authority and confidence. The process of integration often begins with awareness. Start by observing your projections. When you feel drawn to someone intensely, ask yourself, am I seeing them, or am I seeing my anima/animus through them? This simple question turns unconscious patterns into conscious insight. Another step is dialogue with the unconscious. Jung encouraged practices like active imagination, visualizing and interacting with the anima or animus in meditation or journaling. By treating them as living presences, you begin to understand what they want to teach you. Dream work is also a powerful tool. If a man dreams of a mysterious woman or a woman dreams of a powerful man, these images can reveal messages from the anima or animus. Recording and reflecting on these dreams helps bring the unconscious into light. Ultimately, integration leads to inner balance. A man no longer needs to project his feminine side onto women. He finds it within himself. A woman no longer depends on men to embody her strength. She discovers it inside her own soul. Together, the anima and animus unite as complementary forces, creating harmony. Jung called this the path of individuation, becoming whole by embracing both sides of your psyche. The union of masculine and feminine within is not just psychological, it is spiritual. It is the inner marriage that makes you complete. We've explored one of Carl Jung's most mysterious and transformative ideas, the anima and animus. These inner figures are not just abstract concepts. They live within each of us. The anima, the inner feminine, invites men to embrace emotion, creativity, and intuition. The animus, the inner masculine, calls women to embody strength, reason, and authority. Together, they are the hidden partners of soul. We've seen how they are formed through our earliest relationships with parents and reinforced by culture, myths, and stories. We've seen how they shape our relationships through projection, creating intense attraction, illusions, and sometimes disappointment. We've also seen the dangers of ignoring them, how they turn into coldness, passivity, harsh self-criticism, or toxic projections that keep us trapped in incomplete lives. But Jung's greatest insight was this: the anima and animus are not enemies to be feared. They are guides. They are bridges to the unconscious, leading us toward the hidden half of ourselves. When we integrate them, we don't lose who we are, we become whole. Men discover that sensitivity is not weakness, but strength. Women realize that authority is not domination, but empowerment. And every person, regardless of gender, finds balance between the polarities within. This inner marriage of masculine and feminine is at the heart of Jung's vision of individuation, the process of becoming your true self. It is not about perfection, but about integration. It is about recognizing that you are both logic and emotion, power and tenderness, reason and intuition. When these opposites unite, you step into authenticity, freedom, and wholeness. So let me ask you, which of these inner figures do you feel closer to right now? The anima or the animus? Do you notice their presence in your relationships, your dreams, or your inner voice? Reflect on this and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might inspire someone else on the same journey. And if this video resonated with you, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because in our next episode, we'll dive into Jung's most powerful archetype of all, the self, the ultimate symbol of wholeness and transformation. The anima and animus live inside you. Will you ignore them, or will you listen to their call and move one step closer to becoming whole?